I want to remind people that we've stood strong on the Second Amendment. Every major case about our Second Amendment rights, the ACLJ has filed on the right side. And in fact, we're working on one right now in New York on places of worship and making sure they have the ability, especially synagogues.
Just to have security.
To have security that they can then deem, like if they need to deem someone in their synagogue to be armed, because the synagogues are open, they're almost open all the time. I mean, they've got, again, depending on what kind of Judaism you're talking about, you basically have an open door policy because of major holidays and also just the prayer schedule and things like that. Kind of like a lot of Catholic churches that are open.
Episcopal
you
churches,
walk right
24 hours a day.
Yeah,
the doors are never
right
locked.
Yeah, and so they were having an issue, of course, with the state of New York and being able to get their own security. So I just want to remind our listeners, our supporters out there, we are engaged in those cases, and we're working on one right now at the ACLJ in one of the toughest states when it comes to Second Amendment rights and gun rights, and that is, of course, in New York. So we've been, throughout our history, on the right side standing with the Second Amendment, just like our First Amendment rights. I mean, these are the key rights in our country. And so when they say, like, free speech, it's too bad we have a First Amendment, or we got to get rid of that Second Amendment. That's when, we step in and say, absolutely not. We have these to protect ourselves from government overreach, both the ability to speak, the ability to petition our government, the ability to have arms in our homes and be able to defend ourselves. This is what kind of defines America. Because, Logan, you might want to make sure you have a strong Second Amendment when the IRS can come knocking on your door, and they're not just knocking on your door like they did to Matt Taibbi and they've done to reporters while he was testifying on Capitol Hill.
Right.
They showed up at his house and said, oh, we'll come back next time. And now you realize when they show up at your house, we're supposed to believe from the IRS Commissioner, Danny Werfel, that they're really not a bunch of armed agents. They're just a bunch of nerds with calculators, right?
He said that, right?
Don't take a listen. Clip? Let's play it.
Let me note something about our civil side compliance employees. Despite what some might think or say, these public servants within the IRS are armed only with calculators and their skills to help us address complex issues. Their work will give people confidence that all taxpayers, regardless of means, are being treated fairly under the tax laws.
Okay. The key word he used there was their civil side. But the IRS has an expanding now criminal side. Now, they've always had one because they go in sometimes with the FBI. Like if there's a raid on a business, they go in, the accountants go in. And sometimes those accountants need to be able to defend themselves if it's a surprise raid. But they usually are playing they're playing a secondary role.
Yeah, the way he said that was, this isn't happening. This is a conservative talking point.
Oh yeah, they all laughed.
Yeah, exactly. This is like I feel like Maury Povich being like, and that was determined to be a lie. That's what it feels like.
We know now that they are trying to hire an additional 300 armed special agents for their criminal division, bringing it up to 1,200. I mean, it's like, why do we need so many government agencies that are willing to use deadly force against Americans?
Is the IRS knocking on this many doors?
Are they raiding that many dangerous businesses?
That's what I'm saying. Like, imagine the amount you're talking about here when you're hiring this many people. That is the amount of people that they are sending out into the field. Not people that are getting phone calls, not people that are getting intimidated by letters or emails or anything else like that, which we've all gotten those. This is the amount of staff they have to have people in the field enforcing it, and that just doesn't seem to add up.
So they want to. It's actually adding 1,200 over 5 years to their existing number. I mean, so they're doubling in size about? Is that what they're doing? It looks like they're doubling their weaponized side, and they try to play it down, but members of Congress are calling them out. And by the way, they tried to take down that job posting once, remember, because it said the use of deadly force. It's back up.
Right.
I mean, it's back up. I'm reading it in my hands.
Back up, it's even more.
Key requirements, major duties. Be willing and able to participate in arrest, execution of search warrant, other dangerous assignments. They are supposed to be playing a secondary role in those. They're not supposed to be the ones busting down the door.
If something happens, sure, they can have protection and be safe. We obviously want that, but not. This feels like they are the enforcers.
Right, that they're not playing. It should be the FBI going in, clearing it out. Then the agents come in to do their account work to get the documents they need, either from computers or files. But that's not how this reads. You got to carry a firearm. You have to be ready to protect yourself and others from physical attacks at any time without warning. And you have to be willing to use deadly force. The use of deadly force. You have to be willing to kill other Americans. Now, listen, the left always talks about how we have too many police.
That's what I was about to say. They're the ones who talk about the fact that we need to have these like human resource officers kind of out in the field to make sure everything is okay, not police officers only. And if you agree with that, then you can't agree with this. You can't say, I don't think we should have police forces. Instead, we need to have people in health and human services stepping in and working with people in mental health cases. It doesn't always need to be cops with guns. Well, then it can't be the other way around when it's just talking about going up to somebody's house because of, at the end of the day, sure, there are some bad actors they have to deal with. But I have a feeling that's not the mass majority of the people that are being raided by the IRS.
Well, I mean, this happened yesterday. Remember, Congress did the exact same thing you just said on the debt limits and federal spending hearing yesterday. It's a Congressman Reschenthaler from Pennsylvania. I hope I said that right, Congressman. Yeah, Reschenthaler. Take a listen.
The question isn't the exact number of firearms that's being issued to the IRS. The question is, why does the IRS need firearms to begin with? And I find it absolutely rich that the party that wants to send social workers to answer domestic police calls, that party, they want IRS agents to have fully automatic weapons. Let me just put this in perspective. When I was in the JAG Corps, I was in Baghdad, sent in the red zone. You know what I was issued? A 9mm Beretta. And that's what I got to go in the red zone. And your party wants agents, IRS agents, to have fully automatic weapons.
So that's even next level. So he was using his own. So he was saying in the military, as part of the JAG, Judge Advocate General Proso, as a military attorney or judge, when he had to go into the danger zone in Iraq, because he was not part of like an infantry group, but part of, again, the legal side of the military, he only got a handgun to defend himself. And that was in a war zone, in the worst part of the war zone. They want, I mean, that's
You're a
pretty
military
wild.
official.
I wasn't even thinking about it. They want fully automatic weapons, the IRS?
Is that what it says?
Yes. Fully automatic. They're going in with machine guns?
Yeah.
Yet they try to take
Strapped.
away an AR-15 from America. They're going in with machine guns into your bill. Why? The IRS should never be in the lead with machine guns. And this is my whole problem is we need a military and we need police. But what we don't need is to weaponize every single agency in the federal government. If the IRS needs to raid a place that's dangerous, we have the FBI to help
the FBI, and they come in and say,
we have U.S. Marshals. I mean, Lord Almighty, I could go through a whole list of all these different law enforcement agencies that already exist. It just seems like the left.
Yeah, what's the National Guard doing? Let's call them.
They love giving automatic weapons to the feds, but they don't want your local police force to have SWAT teams. I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
They don't want your local police to have access to those same kind of weapons
or for them
in the trunk of their police cruisers if they have to stop a shooting or violent event.
Yeah, but
they don't want that.
But if you messed up filing the taxes, sorry, we're coming for you.
I mean, if it's that dangerous of a place to go in to get the files from, they should not be taking the lead on that part.
Right.
That part should be led by major law enforcement agencies who we have entrusted with those resources.
Look, we're not also just being hyperbolic here. Sure, do some of these agents maybe need some kind of security safety
That's what
training?
the Congressman was talking
Sure,
about.
of course. But what is this? Why is it so extreme?
Why do they need 1,200 more?
Right.
And it just, to me, when they're, whose door do they knock on? Journalists they don't like. Who do they come to? Middle-class Americans to audit more of your money. I mean, they're trying to downplay the fact that they've hired so many different, they want to hire 80,000 more, auditors and people like that. That's to go after middle-class Americans. Because let me tell you something. The poorest of the poor don't pay taxes. And the richest of the rich have lots of people handling their taxes. So who is in the middle trying to comply on their own? Middle-class Americans.